Once upon a chilly day, Jack and Annie were finishing school and feeling super cold. They wanted to rush home for the start of their Christmas break. But, snow clouds were sneaking in, making everything frosty. Jack was shivering and said, "Let's go quick, I'm freezing." They strolled through the woods and guess what? They saw a white bird on a tree branch. Annie thought it was a messenger from their magical friend Morgan. Exciting, right? Annie was sure Morgan had a mission for them, and off they went, chasing the bird through the woods. Even though it got dark, they found their way to the tallest oak where their magic treehouse was hiding. Annie shouted for Morgan, but surprise, no Morgan. Instead, they found a fancy scroll inviting them to Christmas in Camelot. Annie was over the moon, imagining a magical castle, knights and feasts. Jack was on board too, dreaming of Sir Lancelot and the Round Table. But oh no! Morgan forgot to send them the Camelot book. Bummer! They searched everywhere, but only found the usual book that took them home to Pennsylvania. Annie and Jack were a bit sad, thinking their Camelot dreams were dashed. But hold on! Jack had a brilliant idea. Maybe Annie's wish and the windy magic around the invitation would make things happen. They both got super excited, thinking, "We're going to Camelot." The treehouse started to spin like crazy until everything became perfectly, absolutely still. And that's how Jack and Annie got their Christmas wish, whisked away to a magical Camelot adventure. Jack and Annie landed their magic treehouse in Camelot, but it didn't look as they expected. The castle seemed gloomy and abandoned. Annie and Jack were a bit confused and hoped they had come to the right place. As they stared out, Morgan, their magical friend, appeared. But surprise, she didn't send the treehouse for them. They were relieved to see her, but also puzzled. It turns out there was a mix-up, and Camelot was not celebrating Christmas this year. Morgan explained that after their last visit, a spell cast by a dark wizard took away all the joy in Camelot. Annie and Jack, being the awesome helpers they are, wanted to fix things. Unfortunately, Morgan said it might not be possible this time. Camelot's story is a legend, a tale that people imagine and add to over time. Morgan asked them to keep the legend alive and not let it end forever. Determined, Annie and Jack agreed to help. Morgan led them into the castle, urging them to go to the Great Hall and meet King Arthur. The adventure in Camelot was about to get even more legendary. Jack and Annie found themselves in Camelot, but things weren't quite as royal and festive as they expected. The castle was cold and drafty, and there was no Christmas cheer to be found. They even had to sit in the chairs of 3 missing knights during dinner. The knights at the Round Table were a bit messy, and not very excited about their not-so-delicious meal. Jack wanted to take notes, but the food was so bad that he quickly put away his notebook. Annie, being her curious self, whispered to Morgan about the 3 lost knights. Turns out, after a spell messed up Camelot's joy, the king sent them on a quest to the Otherworld, a magical land beyond the earth. But they never came back, and the king blamed all the problems on magic, banning it from Camelot forever. The saddest part, Morgan revealed that the magic treehouse was also banished from Camelot, making this their last adventure together. Before Jack and Annie could fully understand, a mysterious knight in red and green burst into the hall. A Christmas knight! And there you have it, a not-so-jolly Christmas in Camelot, complete with bad food, missing nights, and a surprise appearance by a festive knight in shining armour. So, in the castle, a super-loud Christmas knight appears with shiny red armour and echoes in his helmet. He's all like, "I'm here to see King Arthur." But the king is not super impressed. He's just calmly asking, "Who are you?" The Christmas knight is being all mysterious and not answering, which is a bit annoying. Then he starts saying Camelot is in big trouble, and King Arthur's knights need to go on a quest to the Otherworld to fix things. But King Arthur is like, "Nah, I already sent some, they never came back, and I'm not doing that again." Drama alert. But guess what? The Christmas knight decides that Jack and Annie, the youngest of everyone, should go on the quest. Annie gets all excited and shouts, "We will go!" Jack is like, "Wait, what?" But it's too late. King Arthur gets mad, Queen Guinevere looks worried, and Morgan Le Fay, who's supposed to be their friend, is just frozen like a statue. The Christmas knight does some magic stuff, and suddenly everyone becomes quiet statues. It's like a statue party, but Jack and Annie didn't RSVP for this magical mess. Oh no! What's going to happen next? Will they have to go on this crazy quest? We'll have to wait and see. So, Annie finds out that Morgan, their magical friend, is super cold, like an ice cream cone on a winter day. She gets all mad at the Christmas knight, demanding to know what he did to Morgan. The Christmas knight is like, "Chill, she'll come back to life after you do a quest." Now, the quest sounds like a big deal. They have to go to the Otherworld, find a special cauldron with water of memory and imagination, and bring it back to Camelot. If they fail, Camelot will stay snoozing forever. But don't worry, the Christmas knight has it all figured out. He gives them 3 rhymes to remember. Jack, the superhero with a pencil, is all ready to write them down. The rhymes talk about keepers of the cauldron, gifts, a cup, a compass, a key, and a secret door to the west. Annie is still a bit teary-eyed, but Jack's got this, and they're ready for the quest. The Christmas knight, being mysterious and all, drops his red cloak like he's in a fashion show and gallops away on his horse. Talk about a knightly exit. What an adventure! So, after the Christmas knight leaves, the room gets all chilly, and Jack and Annie are left puzzled with these rhymes they got to figure out. Annie, being her impulsive self, grabs the red cloak like it's a superhero cape and is ready to roll. Jack, the planner, is like, "Wait, let's figure this out first." But Annie's on a mission. Jack, being a bit sentimental, looks back at the frozen Camelot gang and decides they have to save Morgan. If they don't, all the cool stories about magic and Camelot might just disappear forever. He calls out to Annie, and she's gone. She's like, "Let's get to the Otherworld ASAP." Jack catches up, and they hop into the magic treehouse. Annie wishes to go to the Otherworld, but oops, they're still in Camelot. Suddenly, a majestic white stag appears, looking all regal and stuff. Annie claims it's there to take them on their journey. Jack is skeptical because, come on, people don't ride deer, right? Annie goes all Disney princess, talking to the stag, and next thing you know, they're on a magical deer ride. Jack is amazed at how cool it is. They zip through the wintry landscape, jump over stuff, and have an all-around enchanted time. Eventually, they reach a cliff and the stag does a graceful exit, disappearing into the mist. Annie is like, "Bye, dear buddy," and turns to Jack. Now they're standing at a cliff, and in the fog they see a big iron gate on a mountain. Annie's all excited, yelling, "That's it! The Otherworld gate!" And there you have it, folks. The quest is about to get real. What an adventure with magical deer, red capes and secret gates. Jack and Annie are in for a wild ride. So, Jack and Annie find themselves at this crazy bridge made of wood and iron bands, and it leads straight to a mysterious iron gate. Annie, always in a hurry, is like, "Let's go." But Jack's got some serious concerns about those guards. He's all worried about them knights with their shiny spears. Annie, being the brains of the operation, is like, "Let's read the second rhyme." Apparently, they need 4 gifts: the Christmas knight's cloak, which they've got, a cup, a compass, and a key. Jack's not sure what to do with the cloak, but Annie's convinced it'll make them invisible. Jack's like, "Nah, that's nuts." But Annie, ever the storyteller, is convinced. She's like, "It happens in stories." So, Jack hands over the cloak, and Annie's convinced it's an invisibility cloak. Jack, the skeptic, is not buying it. Annie puts on the hood and boom, she disappears. Jack freaks out, thinking she's some invisible ghost, but Annie's like, "Ta! Da! Magic!" Now Annie's all excited about being invisible and thinks it's the best way to sneak past the guards and hide in the Otherworld. Jack's not so sure, but he's like, "Fine, let's do it for Morgan." So, they both squeeze under the cloak and get ready to be invisible. Jack hates it because he can't see his own feet and it feels weird. But Annie's all, "Who cares? It's for protection." So, off they go, invisible and all, across the spooky bridge. Annie's like, "Don't look down!" But Jack, of course, does. He gets all dizzy, but they keep going. Annie, being the playful one, goes, "Whoosh!" like she's the wind, and Jack thinks she's lost it. But turns out, it works like a charm. The gate swings open, and they slip by the guards all invisible-like. Jack's relieved and impressed, but they still got to figure out what's next. Annie's all dramatic, going, "Whoosh!" again, and Jack's like, "All right, Wind Girl, let's see what's in the other world." And there you have it, folks. The magic cloak does its thing, and Jack and Annie are on their way to explore the other world. Get ready for more invisible adventures. Okay, so Jack and Annie ditch the invisible cloak and find themselves in this magical otherworld, which is basically the opposite of the gloomy place they just left. Picture this: a green meadow, sunshine, and 3 horses chilling nearby, and no more need for invisibility. They check the notebook for that first rhyme about the keepers of the cauldron, and Jack's all like, "Wait, we sneaked past those guards. Are they the keepers?" But then they hear some enchanting music coming from over the hill. Annie's like, "Maybe that's them." And Jack, being a music fan, is like, "Let's meet them." But cautious Jack is like, "Hold on, shouldn't we go invisible again, just in case?" Annie's not thrilled about it, but they hood up and sneak towards the sound. And boom, they stumble upon the keepers of the cauldron having a full-on magical dance party. Picture glittery people with golden skin and wings, dancing like there's no tomorrow. The whole vibe is like a fairy tale rave. Annie and Jack decide it's cool to be visible with these winged dancers. They toss away the cloak and join the dance circle. But guess what? Jack, the usually shy guy, is all in for the dance. They're spinning, twirling, and having a blast. Jack's so into it that he forgets about Morgan, Camelot, and the whole quest thing. Then Annie shouts, 3 nights, and Jack's like, yay, more dancers! But nope, Annie's freaking out because these nights look sick. She tries to warn Jack, but he's lost in the dance vibes. Uh-oh, things are getting interesting. Will Jack snap out of the dance trance? Stay tuned for the next magical moves. Annie goes full superhero mode, chasing Jack around the dance circle. She's like, stop, Jack, stop. But Jack's in his own dance world, and he's not having any of it. Annie, being the determined sister she is, pulls Jack out of the dance like a boss. Jack's all like, why'd you do that? I was having fun. Annie's pointing at the knights going, see them? They're dancing themselves to death. And guess what? These knights are the lost ones from Camelot, looking all tired and sick with wild eyes and ghostly smiles. Annie's like, we got to save them. So, Jack and Annie come up with a genius plan. They decide to sneak back into the dance circle, get between the dancers and the knights, and pull the knights out. But Jack's worried he might get caught up in the dance again. Annie's all motivational, saying, just think about something else. Think about Morgan. So, they crouch in the grass, wait for the knights to come closer, and when the moment is right, they jump into action. Jack's feet start doing the dance jig, and he's all happy, forgetting his worries. Annie's screaming, pull away, Jack, now! But Jack's like, nah, I'm good. It takes Annie shouting Morgan like a bazillion times to snap him out of it. Finally, Jack breaks free, pulling a knight with him, and they all crash onto the grass. The dancers, totally clueless. They just keep on dancing like they're in a time warp. The saga continues. Will Jack and Annie save the knights from the never-ending dance party? Stay tuned, brave readers. Jack and Annie save the day. The knights are panting on the grass, trying to catch their breath. Annie's like, hey guys, you've stopped dancing. We pulled you out. And they're all like, whoa, who are you? Annie's quick to spill the beans. We're friends from King Arthur's castle on a quest to save Camelot. Jack adds, we're after the water of memory and imagination. Sir Lancelot's all like, Camelot, I don't recognize you. Annie's reassuring, we're just visiting, but we know you. You're Sir Lancelot. Jack's like, and you're with Sir Percival and Sir Galahad. Then the knights spill the tea about the dance, making them forget everything. Jack's understanding. The dancers must be the keepers of the cauldron. You can't get past them without dancing. Sir Galahad's like, we must find the water. Annie's a pro at comforting. Chill, dudes. Rest now. We got this. Sir Galahad hands them a cup. Sir Percival gives them a compass, and Sir Lancelot throws in a key, making Jack and Annie the proud owners of all the cutesy gifts. While the knights snooze, Annie and Jack check their loot. Jack's all business. Let's make sure we got everything. They did. The cloak from the Christmas night and the rest from the sleeping nights. But Jack's not throwing a party yet. He's like, it's not over. We still need to find that cauldron with the magic water. Annie's positivity is unstoppable. No biggie! Let's read the third rhyme. Jack reads about the secret door lying to the west. Annie's like, easy peasy. The compass will guide us. The key will unlock. and the cup will carry the magic water. Let's roll. They head into a thicket, all compass guided. Things get thorny, twigs snap, and Jack's starting to doubt the thicket plan. Annie's not worried, but Jack's a bit suspicious. They reach a quiet, birdless spot. Jack's like, "We're still going west." Annie spots a shiny glass door between rocks on a hillside. Hold on tight, readers. Jack and Annie are about to unlock the next chapter of their magical adventure. Jack and Annie hit the jackpot. They find the secret door, and Annie whips out Sir Lancelot's key like a pro. Clink! The door opens to a dazzling crystal cave filled with streams of purple light. Jack and Annie are like, "Where's the light coming from?" Annie spots a crack. They sneak over, and boom! A room with 4 doorways. The grand prize is revealed in a corner. A golden cauldron over a purple-flamed fire. Jack's like, "The water of memory and imagination." Annie's on the same page. "Let's grab it." But hold on, it's too high. Solution, Jack's back. He hands Annie Sir Galahad's cup. She hops on. Jack staggers closer, and Annie scoops up the magical water like a boss. Celebration time. Nope. Strange smells and gurgling sounds. Uh-oh. Turn around and meet the party crashers, giant, slimy, winged monsters. These creatures look like crocodiles on steroids, with fiery breath and drool-worthy teeth. Annie's like, "Yikes!" Jack whispers, "The real keepers of the cauldron." The monsters mean business, and Jack and Annie are in for a wild ride as they face these not-so-friendly gatekeepers. Get ready for some monster mayhem in the next chapter. Jack and Annie are in a tight spot, surrounded by huge fiery monster creatures. Annie comes up with a wild idea. "Let's drink the water." Jack's like, "That's crazy." But with the keepers getting closer, they decide to give it a shot. Annie takes a sip. Jack takes a sip. The water of memory and imagination is sweet, bitter, and spicy all at once. Now, Annie's like, "Imagine we're saved." Jack tries, but is a bit confused. Annie's not waiting, though. She puts the cup down, and boom! Lightning strikes. Jack and Annie grab flaming branches from the cauldron fire and turn them into fiery swords. Ah! They scream, and a fierce battle begins. They fight like superheroes, jabbing at the keepers with their blazing swords. The keepers hiss and shoot blue fire, but Jack and Annie fight back with their purple flames. "Back! Back!" they shout, driving the monsters away. One by one, the keepers retreat into their doorways. Jack and Annie block the doorways with burning branches, sealing the monsters inside. Annie picks up the cup, and they dash through the crystal cave. They step into daylight, the key still in the door. Jack calmly locks it, hands the key to Annie, and then his knees give in, and he flops to the ground. What an adventure! Jack and Annie are scratching their heads, trying to make sense of the wild adventure they just had. Jack's like, "I can't believe any of it." Annie's holding the silver cup, and they're both laughing about the crazy stuff that went down in the cave. Annie reveals that she imagined fighting the keepers with flaming swords, and Jack's imagination focused on sending the keepers back into their holes. They hear a furious shriek from inside the cave and decide, "Let's get out of here!" They scramble down the rocks, Annie being extra careful not to spill the water of memory and imagination. Using Sir Percival's compass, They head east through the thicket to escape the keeper's cave. They reach the green glade where the winged dancers are still doing their magic circle thing. Jack's tempted to join, but he knows that's a bad idea. Annie points out that the knights are awake and ready. Jack and Annie greet the knights, showing off the silver cup with the magical water. The knights are thrilled. Sir Lancelot, Sir Galahad, and Sir Percival are back on their feet, buckling on their swords. The knights think they've lost their horses, but Jack and Annie know better. The horses are waiting on the other side of the hill. Jack picks up the red velvet cloak, and they all head to the meadow. The knights mount their horses, and Sir Lancelot offers Jack and Annie a ride back to Camelot. Annie sits behind Lancelot, holding the silver cup. Jack is concerned about the water spilling, but Annie assures him she's got it covered. As they approach the iron gate, the knights draw their swords and demand entry in the name of King Arthur. The gate opens, and they ride across the bridge, back to the freezing Otherworld. The horses neigh loudly as they step off the bridge. Then, standing on a rock in the fog, they spot the majestic white stag. Oh wow! What a way to wrap up this magical journey! Jack, Annie, and the three knights find themselves face to face with the majestic white stag. Annie, ever the adventurer, jumps off Lancelot's horse and gives the stag a big hug, thanking him for rescuing them. The knights are wide-eyed, wondering if Jack and Annie are wizards. Jack clarifies that they're just regular kids, but the stag is indeed magical. Sir Lancelot suggests that Jack and Annie go with the white stag for a faster journey back to Camelot. The knights bid farewell, and the stag, surrounded by a puff of frosty air, takes off like a white comet. The red cloak wraps around Jack and Annie, keeping them warm and cozy as the stag dashes through wintry landscapes, past sheep, goats, frozen streams, and more, until they reach Camelot. At Camelot, the stag kneels, and Jack and Annie dismount. The silver cup is miraculously still filled with water. They decide to leave the red velvet cloak as a gift for the stag. Annie whispers her gratitude, and Jack says, "Thanks." The white stag with mysterious amber eyes nods and disappears into the darkness. Jack picks up the cup, urging Annie to hurry. They cross into the castle's inner courtyard, push open the giant doors, and find the frozen Camelot just as they left it. Wondering what to do next, Annie suggests trying to unfreeze everyone using a drop of water from the cup. They decide to start with Morgan Le Fay. As Jack approaches the round table, disaster strikes. He stumbles over his shoelace, and the silver cup slips from his hands, creating a suspenseful cliffhanger. Jack and Annie accidentally spill the water of memory and imagination in Camelot, thinking their quest has ended in disaster. However, to their surprise, a golden cloud rises from the floor, filling the hall with wonderful scents. Laughter erupts and everyone comes back to life. Morgan Le Fay is delighted and invites Jack and Annie for a hug. Despite Jack's worry about the spilled water, Annie reassures him that the water created a golden cloud, reviving Camelot. The enchanted atmosphere includes a white dove, laughter, and the joyful awakening of King Arthur, Queen Guinevere, and the Knights of the Round Table. Morgan praises Jack and Annie for returning from the Otherworld, and they share the good news about the knights' safety. The king and his knights are overjoyed, and Jack and Annie present the cup, key, and compass as gifts, Camelot erupts in cheers, and King Arthur orders the bells to ring, calling everyone to the castle. The great hall is filled with decorations, candles, and the joyful sounds of a Christmas carol. Annie spots the white stag in the doorway, but when Jack looks again, it has transformed into Merlin the magician. Morgan reveals that Merlin orchestrated their adventure to Camelot, posing as the Christmas knight and the white stag. Merlin sought their help in the quest for the water of memory and imagination, recognizing their courage and imagination. Merlin smiles at Jack and Annie, raises his staff, and leaves. The hall, now filled with warmth, light, and holiday spirit, captures the essence of Christmas in Camelot, fulfilling Jack's imaginative expectations. The spell of the dark wizard is broken, and the castle is aglow with beauty, love, joy, and light. Jack and Annie wake up in the treehouse after their incredible adventure in Camelot. Jack initially thinks it was just a dream, but Annie reveals that it was real. Jack fell asleep at the round table during the Christmas party, and King Arthur carried him to the treehouse. Annie made a wish to return home. Shocked, Jack asks if it really happened, and Annie shows him the royal invitation as proof. Jack realizes the letter M stood for Merlin, not Morgan, and he thanks Merlin for the magical journey. They head home through the snowy woods, and when they reach their house, their mum welcomes them warmly. The house is cozy and filled with good smells. Jack and Annie exchange simple Christmas greetings in the hallway before going to their rooms. Jack, feeling tired but awake, regrets not taking notes on their journey. However, he decides to use his memory and imagination to write down the whole story in his notebook. As the snow swirls outside his window, Jack writes and writes, determined to keep the legend of King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, Merlin, and Morgan Le Fay alive. The chapter ends with Jack capturing the magic of their Christmas in Camelot in his written words.